So hello and welcome to yet another episode of TopTenz. I'm your interim host, Karl, and today we're talking about 10 things you never knew about the Amish. And as with all the videos here at TopTenz, this one is based on a script submitted to us by a member of our writing team, that being Ian Forty. The links to their socials can be found below alongside my own, but let's get to it. Most of us know that the Amish exists and think of them as people in old-timey clothes who travel by horse and buggy. There's a lot more to Amish life than many people realise, not least of which is the fact that they're often confused with Mennonites, who are similar but definitely not the same. And chances are there's plenty going on in Amish country you probably never realised. Starting with number 10, Amish computers are a thing. A very common misconception about the Amish is that they don't use technology, which isn't really true. Some will use technology, but only if it is in service of the work they do, and it's as minimally invasive as possible. While so-called old order Amish avoid it almost entirely, new order Amish may make some noteworthy exceptions. Because of their acceptance of technology, especially technologies that help in their day-to-day lives, there are even Amish computers available, designed specifically to cater to the needs of an Amish family. Any computer can technically be an Amish computer, so what makes this one special? Well, it absolutely does only the bare minimum. Normal computers can take you to YouTube to watch videos like this or play games. Not the Amish computer. No internet, nothing fun, just business. They don't even play music. An Amish computer does inventory spreadsheets, makes receipts, and other simple business needs like that. Consider it a souped-up word processor or a machine that runs a ramshackle version of Microsoft Office and nothing else. So, a laptop from the late 90s, basically. Number 9. The Amish don't have mustaches because it means military service to them. Amish men of a certain age are easily identifiable by their great big bushy beards. They usually have long beards with sideburns and no moustaches. This look is so unique to them that if you try and grow this on your own and are not Amish, you will absolutely get told that you look like you're Amish. But why exactly do they style themselves in this manner? Well, to start with the beard, that's a sign that an Amish man is married. They don't wear jewellery and don't wear wedding rings as a result. When a man gets married, he grows the beard to show that as both a sign he has become a man and as sort of a visual tribute to the way folks looked in biblical times. If an Amish man has no beard, then ladies, he's up for grabs. The moustache never accompanies the beard for a very specific reason. For the Amish, a moustache indicates military service. Once upon a time, British soldiers were requested to have a moustache as part of their uniform. This was the 1800s, mind you, but the Amish are nothing if not old-fashioned. Because the Amish do not engage in violence, or they're not supposed to anyway, and they absolutely will not serve in the military as a result, they kept their upper lip shaved to show that they are not military men. Number 8. The Amish sidestep driving rules by having Amish taxi drivers. We already touched on the technology issues for the Amish briefly, and travelling has long been a sticky issue for them. The fact is that a horse can only take you so far, and for that reason the Amish have made several allowances and loopholes for themselves over the years. While a new order Amish may have their own truck, what about an old order Amish who needs to do some travelling, maybe even stopping to buy some large items they couldn't carry in a wagon? Well, that's where the Amish taxi comes in. Old order Amish allow that they can travel in motorised vehicles, they just can't own them. Amish communities may have several taxis that cater specifically to their needs. These taxi drivers are typically paid a per mile fee plus an hourly rate on top for any time they spend waiting. This way, an Amish person can, say for example, go to a hospital, pay for the mileage, and then the taxi will wait for them to finish an appointment or a visit based on the hourly rate, and then take them home or wherever else they need to go after the fact. The job can be pretty time consuming and may require a full day of work that can take a driver through several states and into Canada, but the pay seems to be worth it. Uber, take notes. Number 7. Amish Run Businesses succeed at far higher rates than non-Amish businesses. Obviously, Amish people are not creating video games or designing new apps for the iPhone, but they do run thriving businesses nonetheless within their communities, and they do so incredibly well. After 5 years, Amish businesses have an astounding 95% success rate compared to other businesses in the rest of the population, which have about a 50% survival rate, with this going lower or higher based on the business. And if anyone curious about what businesses tend to do the worst, it's usually considered to be restaurants or bars, something you'll learn if, like myself, you binge watch Gordon Ramsay or Bar Rescue. The community tends to stick to small-scale businesses of less than 30 employees. They focus on skills and trades that have come naturally in the Amish world, including carpentry and furniture making, baking, various construction trades, and so on and so forth. And despite being small in a physical sense, Amish businesses can be very successful well beyond their own little communities. Amish goods are sold nationally and even internationally, with some of these businesses making millions of dollars per year. That in turn implies there are several Amish millionaires out there that most of us never knew existed. And I'm just reminded of one of my favourite quotes about the Amish from The Simpsons, where like Homer buys the pool and he makes the pool, and like the Amish guy comes and goes,
"It's a fine barn, but sure 'tis no pool, English."
And just Homer's like, that always cracked me up. Number 6, the Amish are one of the fastest growing populations in the world. Contrary to what you might expect, the Amish population in America is actually growing, and in fact, worldwide, it's also growing. Just because they seem to eschew most modern conveniences doesn't mean their way of life isn't appealing to some. Most Amish children, for example, remain in the community when they become adults with retention rates of about 85%. Factor in that many Amish parents will have as many as 10 to 12 children, and the growth of that community is inevitable. And I believe what Amish children do when they reach adulthood is they are encouraged to go explore the wider world and then come back after they've experienced it if they so choose. And the fact that they go out there and can play an Xbox and drink and all that good stuff and then still come back speaks to just how wholesome that way of life must be. In Minnesota alone, for example, the Amish population rose 230% in just 20 years. When a community reaches about 40 families, they will splinter and form new settlements. Research has shown that new settlements start every 3 weeks in the United States. For example, in 2012, there were 251,000 Amish across the US and Canada. In 2023, there were 360,000 Amish in the US and another 6,000 in Canada. So, yeah. Go Amish. Number 5, the Amish find numerous ingenious technological loopholes. So we've seen that the Amish can use vehicles if they have someone else drive them, and they can even own a computer if that's the most boring computer in existence. So how does technology work in their communities, and what are the rules? Well, as mentioned before, the old order Amish will largely eschew all technology that they can, but the new order may find many creative loopholes. Electricity, for instance, the reason that the Amish don't use electricity, for anyone curious, is because if it comes from a public grid, that is seen as being literally tying yourself to the world. Their belief prohibits tying yourself to worldly things, which is not uncommon in Christian theology, but they take it very literally, so that's just one kind of electricity. Off-grid electricity, on the other hand, has been accepted in many Amish communities as not being the same. They are not connected to the greater world by it, and so electricity that comes from, say, batteries or generators or solar sources that they can control is deemed to be acceptable, at least in some Amish communities. Homes may, for example, have battery-operated lights inside and even radios. Many Amish also have telephones, but they may prefer to keep them in an outbuilding like the barn. They will also use power tools, but then to use ones that either operate with battery power or even pneumatic tools which skirt the issue of power altogether. You can find propane-powered forklifts and hydraulic saws in Amish businesses too. As long as it serves the good of the community or their way of life, the Amish will adapt as necessary to many things. That said, it's also very much on a community by community basis, so what one group of Amish will accept, others may not. And this reminds me a little bit of an article I wrote many years ago about Hasidic Jews. I believe it's on the Sabbath, they don't do work, but there's really fascinating arguments and discussions amongst scholars about what constitutes work. And I believe you can get things like kosher ovens, which you can set, because some take it so literally that they deem turning on an oven or an appliance or opening a door to be work. So they'll do things like the day before the Sabbath, make sure all of their doors are open and program their oven to turn on the day before so they can get their food. And it's all very interesting and fascinating, and something I wish I could recall more of it, but it's an article I wrote many, many years ago. Maybe there'll be an article on TopTenz about it in the future. Get on that writing team. But moving swiftly on, Amish children only get schooled until the 8th grade. The Amish work with the rest of society begrudgingly. They are polite and even friendly with outsiders, but they don't want to sacrifice their beliefs. Because of this, Amish education is, shall we say, limited. Amish children do go to school until the 8th grade, and that's about it. The Amish still use the single-room schoolhouse model, so all children in a community are educated together. It was a Supreme Court ruling that allowed for this, partially based off the assumption that an Amish education was equal to a non-Amish education up to the 8th grade. This has of course been debated over the years, with it being suggested that the Amish education is not on par at all. The other factor was that the Amish argued that the high school would affect the Amish children's ability to practice their religion, and the courts tended to agree. Not all Amish are happy about this, and some members have left the community as children because they wanted a proper education. They feel the court's decision was wrong and it should be overturned, but that's an issue for the courts and not us in a video about the Amish that's about 15 minutes long. Moving swiftly on. Number 3. The Swartz and Trouba Amish are so strict they avoid plumbing and bicycles. So we've already covered Amish that are more lax with the rules in place than others, which implies there are some who are the exact opposite, and they're usually found in the Swartz and Trouba Amish. The Swartz and Trouba can be found in Ohio and Canada, and they are throwbacks to the original Amish from Europe 300 years ago. Even their name quite literally translates to black and to refrain, which means they remain plain and conservative and do not partake in what the rest of the world has, even colour. Their horse-drawn buggies don't even have coloured reflectors. As the most conservative group, they will not only avoid electricity, they don't even have running water in their homes or gas lamps to provide light. They avoid technology as simple as bicycles and Velcro. So it means we can make fun of them all we want in the comments section because they're never going to see it. But don't do that because it's not very nice, is it? Number 2, the Amish have much lower cancer rates than the rest of the population. In the summer of 2023, there was a social media conspiracy theory that Amish children were immune to things like autism, cancer, and diabetes because they were unvaccinated. This was inspired in part by genuine reports that Amish people have much lower cancer rates than the rest of the population. The truth is that it has nothing to do with vaccines, of course. While many recent Amish survey participants said they might reject a COVID vaccine back in 2011, only about 14% of respondents admit to rejecting vaccines in general, meaning most Amish children would be vaccinated like the rest of the population. That said, cancer rates are lower, and there have been several potential explanations for this. Though Amish are more likely to suffer from certain genetic illnesses than others owing to their smaller communities, they tend to not smoke, which limits tobacco-related cancer risks. They eat much healthier food that they grow themselves and have very limited processed food in their diets. Amish people also tend to have more physically demanding jobs as opposed to the sedentary jobs enjoyed by most of the outside population, myself included, which results in them having a much lower obesity rate than the general population, and in turn suffering less of the cancers associated with being obese. Additionally, they also have incredible community support systems whenever someone needs help, so stress levels are likely much lower among the Amish. All of this goes to show that their lifestyle may have a tremendous impact on why those cancer rates are about 60% of the rate for the rest of the population. Who'd have thunk not being stressed, overweight, and exercising every day, eating good food will result in you living a healthier lifestyle? It has to be a conspiracy. Finally, number 1. A place in Florida is referred to as Amish Las Vegas. They missed a trick not calling it Amish Paradise. Like anyone, the Amish need time to unwind and cut loose. They even have their own version of Sin City, Las Vegas. And when it's time for the Amish to party hardy, they'll head to Pinecraft, Florida. Calling it the Amish Las Vegas is to take a number of great liberties with everything that name brings to mind. There's no gambling, no drinking, no debauchery, or really anything at all remotely similar to what happens and stays in Vegas, other than plentiful electricity. The Amish will happily use lights and ride the bus in Pinecraft. You can find cell phones and even cameras in use, showing just how far the Amish will push their limits. They will even ride bicycles. The clothes are even a little more risque, with sunglasses and tank tops being acceptable attire specifically in this location. About 5,000 Amish will visit Pinecraft each year during the off-season when they can leave the farm for a little while. They play shuffleboard, socialise, and party down like only the Amish can. So I hope everybody out there found this video entertaining, educational, and informative. I certainly found the script to be all 3 of those things. And if you are one of those people, follow the writer Ian Forty on the social media links below. You can also follow me if you're so inclined. Leave a like, comment below with anything else you'd like us to cover in future, feedback, suggestions, all that good stuff. Subscribe for more like this. Go check out our sister channels, Geographics, Biographics, my own channels, Wiki Weekends, and Fact. Oh, I got so close. I tried. Either way, behind the scenes, we appreciate you watching these videos. On a personal note, I appreciate people accepting me as the interim host in this time of transition. And otherwise, I'd like to wish everybody out there the day that they deserve. Cheers.